is 6:15 and we have a quorum. As
Yeah, I just want to state for the record, for if anybody's watching live on YouTube, that we are having difficulty with the camera. We'll be able to share presentations online, but the camera internal, so just the audio will be available for this meeting. Yeah, we don't have a chairman. We were going to probably wait till next month to do our elections because our chairman wasn't reappointed. So Ed, if you could please chair the meeting.
I will do my best.
You're in the spot,
I'm
so
not the most familiar with protocol, so you might have to jump in and help.
I will prompt you. No worries. So and then just a note before we get started, we're going to have a board organization meeting next month with an election of a chair and a vice chair as well. So the first item, if you have your agendas, you see we follow along with the agenda. I know for three of you, we have three new folks. So I think we need to get the meeting started by swearing in our three new members.
if you'd stand, please. Do you solemnly swear that or affirm that you will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida against all enemies, domestic or foreign, and that you will bear true faith, loyalty, and allegiance to the same, and that you're entitled to hold office under the Constitution and the Charter of the City of Lake Worth Beach, and that you'll faithfully perform all the duties of the office of appointed member of the Planning and Zoning Board, of which you're about to enter? If so, say.
I will.
Great, thank you. So you just complete back to me and I'll take care of this. That's it. So we're gonna help with, so we're gonna stand for the pledge.
Oh, where are we going to do?
Well, we need to do a roll call first, Sherry.
Okay, so Alexander Call. Dan Walesky.
Here.
Mark Hum.
Here.
Evelyn Kuyo. Okay. Ed LeBlanc.
Here.
Zaid Shamsi Basha. I'll never be able to say it right. And we have a quorum. Juan Cotton is not with us this evening. We stand for the pledge.
Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Interim Chairman, the next item on the agenda will be additions, deletions, and recording and approval of the agenda. I will mention that we did not list it under new business, but the fleet maintenance item, which is application number 22-014-00010, which is a major site plan for the construction of the new fleet facility. And EOC will be requires a motion to continue that application to the September meeting. So if at this time, if I could have a motion to continue that particular item. So thank you. Is
We
there?
have a motion. Second. All in favor, say aye. I think it's unanimous.
If you all could make sure when you're speaking to turn your microphones on.
Then the next would be the approval of the minutes. So if you call
So
for the
we have approval of minutes from 3 meetings. April 20th, June 1st, and June 15th. Can we approve those all together in one item? Okay. Did anyone have a chance to review those minutes? And
I read them. I moved to approve the minutes from April 20th, June 1st, and June 15th.
anybody second? I will second. All those in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Cases. Now, do we need to swear in staff and applicants who are going to speak in this meeting?
Yes. Anyone planning to give testimony this evening? Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now we have proof of publication. I don't think I need to, do I need to do anything? Are there any withdrawals or postponements?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any items under consent?
No, the first item is going to be new business item, PZB 22-005-00007. Oh, yeah.
I'm Elizabeth Lenahan with the City Attorney's Office, and I just wanted to step in here. We have an item on the agenda for disclosures. For those of you who are new, just wanted to give a little backdrop as to what that means. So your proceedings tonight are quasi-judicial proceedings. So they're less formal than court proceedings, but they do have a specific process that they follow to make sure that due process is had. And one of the things with quasi-judicial proceedings in the state of Florida is that you have to make sure that when you are sitting as the presider over a quasi-judicial hearing, that you are can do so without being prejudicial against the applicant or either for or against. So one of the things that we do is we check for disclosures. There are requirements under Florida law that you cannot be biased in your decision making, and there are certain questions that you have to look at when you're making that assessment. So what we look at is if you have a demonstrated bias or prejudice for or against any party that's part of the hearing, a direct or indirect monetary interest in the outcome of the hearing, a prejudgment of the issues prior to hearing the facts on the record. So if there's something in the newspaper or on social media that you've been following and it's brought you to some conclusions about the project, then you want to disclose that.
But it doesn't include the review of the packet materials.
And any ex parte communications or personal investigations. So if you've had communications with staff, if you have had communications with an applicant or someone in the public who you think of as an expert on the issue, and that's giving you some different factual information than just reading the packet, then you would want to disclose that. So if your answer is yes to any of those things, then you would also follow up with whether or not you could still be impartial in this hearing. So your board disclosures, we usually ask for them at the beginning. That would cover all of the hearings that you would hear for the entire meeting. And that's what we're asking for when we talk about board disclosures. So does anybody have any disclosures? All right, thank you.
Is there any unfinished business?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so for new business, I guess just turn it over to staff for PZB case 22-005-0000007.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Scott Rodriguez with the Planning and Zoning Division. The item before you is Gifted Kids request for 1,840 square foot outpatient clinic medical office use as part of a blanket conditional use permit request for 409 South Dixie Highway. The blanket conditional use permit request is being requested by the owner. The subject site is located on the west side of Dixie Highway between 4th Avenue South and Fifth Avenue South and is within the mixed use Dixie Highway zoning district. Along with the request for an outpatient clinic medical office use, the applicant is requesting several low to medium intensity uses to be located at this location. This is a site plan of the area of the use to be utilized. And it's shown out in the outline portion. The project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, strategic plan, the city's LDRs as conditioned, and conditional use standards. Therefore, staff is recommending approval with conditions. And that concludes my presentation. I want to note that the applicant and the owner are present at tonight's meeting. If you have any questions, I'm not sure if they have a presentation, but staff is also available for any questions.
And I just want to note, just to add to Scott's presentation, that the outline of the bays is for the gifted kids facilities, but the blanket conditional use is for the property. So the idea is as we get some of these multi-tenant properties, we bring in a blanket conditional use. So as they swap out tenants, they can just go straight to business license and they don't require a separate zoning approval for every tenant to swap out. So as people come in, we're bringing them in for blanket conditional uses, and you'll begin to see more of these.
Does the applicant have a presentation?
Hi guys, my name is Trixie Lemos. I'm a board certified behavior analyst. I do not have a presentation with me, but I'm open to any questions you guys have.
Hi, quick question. So the list of possible tenants that you might have, you already have them lined up, or is that what you're expecting to get?
We usually provide services now in the home and schools. So we do have some, therapists who already work for us, but that is the amount of people I'm estimating that.
So there's kind of two, she's the business owner for Gifted Kids.
Mhm.
So the property owner
Oh, yeah.
is asking for that kind of list of tenants.
Mhm.
So just to be able to swap out tenants.
Yeah.
So, and I will tell you that staff, when they propose a conditional use, staff reviews the list of that they have proposed, and we review and edit down the ones that we include the staff report that we feel will be the most appropriate in a conditional use scenario and would not typically require further review. So then that particular list, and if there's a disagreement between the applicant and staff, you'll see that in your staff report as well. And we'll highlight and we'll say staff does not support this list of conditions, or staff does. So
So my question really was under where it says project description, those lines of those are potential tenants or potential storefronts that would be there. Right. So my question was if you already have them already lined up, or is that something that you're
Yes, we do.
right? Like the gym and studio and fitness, like I would like to see that. So I was just wondering if you did have that.
Unfortunately, that's not in the agenda right now,
I see. Okay.
but we do have insurance agency in one shop. Two of the shops are occupied by pet aquamation, which is a type of cremation. Cremation
Oh,
method.
okay. Mhm.
And one of the shops is going to be nutritional drinks.
Sir, could you say your name for the record and that you're the property owner?
I'm Zabir Ismail. I'm the owner of Tropical Point Plaza.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff. Can I just maybe in 2 sentences, explain the difference between uses that are allowed by right and conditional uses, and why we're approving conditional uses?
Sure. Most uses that are allowed by right within the city are typically very low intensity uses and uses that are less than 2,500 square feet. So a couple of these uses that are on the list would not require a conditional use. They would require an administrative use approval. So by building them into this conditional use because he's not going to probably have a tenant because the plaza is so small, more than 5,000 square feet. So the kind of the layers are, well, let me take you back. The layers are 2,500, which most uses, not all, but most uses in under 2,500 square feet are permitted by right, means you go straight to a business license. The next level is uses under 5,000 square feet, which are typically administrative uses. So that's something that staff reviews. And then that goes straight to business license. And then conditional uses are higher intensity uses. And those are less than 7,500 square feet or uses that may have substantial impacts, like could be substantial parking, or sometimes you'll see a lot of industrial uses that may be rated as conditional uses. And so when we do a conditional use permit, sometimes there's some uses in there included that are administrative uses, but we wanted to package them all in for this particular plaza because we felt that whether they were, sometimes what we get is we get uses that are 2,700 square feet. So when we have a plaza like this, if it's a little restaurant and it's 2,700 square feet versus 2,499, it's nice to do kind of a conditional use that gets any type of tenant. And remember, this travels with the property. So as these tenants leave, this particular conditional use will go with the property. So those uses could swap out. So as he's looking for tenants, he could find those other tenants. Mhm.
If he sells the building, does that go with the building?
Yes,
too?
the approval goes with the land. So that's why when you're reviewing this, look at the list that is being approved and make sure you're comfortable with those uses. Now, the tenant, how much square footage is, this is a small plaza. What's your total square footage in the plaza?
It's 5,000.
Yeah, so the whole plaza is 5,000 square feet. So it's a very small plaza. So we felt, depending on whoever wanted to come in, if a tenant wanted to come in and take over the plaza, then that would be okay, So
Quick question. How many units in the building?
There are 6 units.
Thank you, sir.
So if somebody came in with one of his bays, that's going to be below the threshold of even requiring additional approval. That would be approval by right. Correct?
so if somebody with one tenant and one of these uses wanted to take over the whole bay, they could do that. Mhm.
Or I'm saying if he has a tenant that comes in that's just taking a single bay, it would be less than 1,000 square feet. They would come in for a business license and go straight through the process. How does parking get reviewed at that point if something with a higher intensity for parking were to?
So in our code, once you have an existing building, okay, when you change the use, we no longer require additional parking review. Because as you change the uses over time, we have so many non-residential properties that are non-conforming with parking. By requiring every use to change to come up with the parking code of that use, it would render a lot of our existing commercial properties functionally not able to have some types of tenants. So a decision was made probably in 2013 when the code was amended, that basically when the uses are reviewed, we do discuss parkings. That's why some of the uses that come before you are conditional uses. We don't have a requirement, but we have asked the board to require additional parking or to require off-site parking, or for example, like a place of worship. So sometimes a place of worship comes in, there's 5 parking spaces on that site. Well, we know that's going to be an impact to the whole neighborhood, right? So as that becomes a conditional use, we've asked for that place of worship to have a shared parking agreement and then a van to bring their parishioners back and forth. So this is an example of how we would, those types of uses we would never build into a conditional use, a blanket conditional use like this. So.
Okay. The other question side, 2 other questions. One of them that says within 1 year of the issuance of development order, property should submit a minor site plan amendment to basically remove 2 parking spaces and screen a refuse area. Where's the refuse currently for the property? Is it in the back by the alley, or is it?
Refuse is for each shop, the individual trash can. Is that what your
Is that
question
what
is?
so you don't have a dumpster currently? You
No, everybody has one,
Everybody has
and most of them don't have that high requirement of, there is no retail business as such. So individual trash cans are working fine.
But you're okay with this condition that says you're gonna get rid of 2 parking spaces and replace it with a dedicated area for trash cans?
If that would be required in the future, I would.
It's part of staff recommendations. that-
Yeah, but it also says in that condition, that it's at the request of public services. So public services is going to review the plaza and the uses. And the reality is we haven't fully reviewed that issue. So it may not be feasible to even put a dumpster there with the turn radius. So they need to look at that a little bit more. So if you want to take off the time limit, if that is your concern with the time limit, but we wanted to be able to require should the need arise. And public services has that authority to do that anyway. It just is if they review based on the tenant's need, we wanted a time limit from the development
So
order.
just providing additional flexibility where if between them and the refuse department, if they determine this is necessary, they don't have to come back to us for a site plan
Mhm.
to get rid of parking spaces.
Mhm.
Okay, the second question along those lines, all of your current tenants, including the new tenant, only operate on weekdays, no weekends?
Their businesses will demand different hours.
I would suggest that I would make a motion that we amend the condition 2A to allow weekdays and weekends. Right now, this has a condition of approval that would restrict you to operating on weekdays. I don't feel like on a property that has direct access on Dixie and it's its own parking lot and its own facility, if they want to open Saturday and Sunday, they shouldn't have to come back before this board to.
So that is just for the health clinic use. And I believe that, Scott, isn't that in the supplementary regulations?
Excuse me. Yeah, that's a supplemental reg that's in the code. So that's already in there. So that's why it's conditioned that way. So we did an analysis of that supplemental those supplemental regulations for medical related uses and determine that those shall meet those requirements. That's why that condition is there. So it's in the supplemental regs already.
Okay, that's part of our land development regulations.
And this is only for medical related uses.
Right.
Yes, and it is part of the land development regulations.
They can apply for a waiver, and we typically, these types of things we put in the conditions of approval so the applicant is aware that it's in. So the hours of operation are weekdays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. that the applicant can submit for a waiver. If it's
And who would they submit for a waiver to?
to us.
To us? I
So
guess my question to you. You're doing therapy for children. I'm assuming that a lot of your businesses after school would possibly have weekends as well. Do you do any therapies on Saturday and Sunday or typically no?
No, not usually. If it does happen, I'm just home.
That's right. Okay. Good. I just wanted to keep you from having to make another trip to.
No, but that-
no, I think it's a good comment.
If we could allow them, it
Yeah.
would help. Definitely.
But I think what they're saying specifically, any of your other, if I understand correctly, staff can help me. Any of the other uses that come in that are not medical in nature would not be restricted.
That's
Based on these hours.
That's correct.
As we have something in the code that restricts medical to these hours, so
Yes.
they need to apply for.
Medical related
specific
uses,
waiver.
yes, you're right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Real quick, being that you're essentially an outpatient facility, to the best of my understanding, is it safe to say that 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays would suffice for your business to flourish, succeed, everything in between? All I need to know. Thank you.
Any more questions from staff? I don't have any questions.
I'd make a motion to approve with all of these staff conditions. I don't really have a problem with the 1 year timeframe, so I'm good with the staff conditions as is.
Yeah, it just was because we can administratively reduce 1 parking space, but we can't do 2. And really the dumpster, if it's needed, requires 2. So this allows us to do like you said, it's flexibility for them. So they don't have to come back to you with a variance or something else,
But it might never happen. It's not, we don't know if it's even necessary, so.
Correct.
Okay.
And it may not even be feasible because of the angle of the parking. I was talking to Public Services, Scott and I were, and it may not even be feasible to have a dumpster and get in. So they may have to stay with cans. So, and that's why if you see in there, we did not put restaurant in the uses because restaurants typically have heavy garbage requirements. So that's why that restaurant was not in the conditional use to be. So if a restaurant or cafe was permitted by right, that would be less than 2,500 square feet, but we didn't feel like a larger restaurant than that would be really appropriate in a place that didn't have a dumpster. So.
Are you referring to the nutritional
Nutrition.
place?
Yes.
Mhm.
I will second the motion to approve with conditions.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against, opposed? Unanimous. Passes.
Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So to the next item. Would be BZB project number 22-005-000006.
Scott, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sorry. Long day. Again, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Scott Rodriguez with the Planning and Zoning Division. The item before you is demand distributions request for consideration for a conditional use permit for an 8,000 square foot wholesale distribution use located at 1807 6th Avenue North. The subject site is located west of Industrial Street and north of 6th Avenue North and is within the Industrial Park of Commerce zoning district. The subject site is surrounded by adjacent parcels that also have an IPOC zoning district designation with compatible industrial uses. The uses within the existing building is highlighted on the screen at the north side of the lot. And I want to just briefly go through some background on this. In 1993, the City Commission did approve a conditional approval for Building A and Building B. And I guess I can get to the site plan. So this was a 1993 approval that included a drainage and landscape plan, and I'll show you the landscape plan in a couple minutes. And the purpose of showing this is that if you notice at the north end, there's a retention area, and this retention area has remained on the plans. There's a landscape plan from 93. And in 1995, which is the most recent site plan that staff is using right now, you'll see the retention area is still there along with the addition of added to Building A, which is where this use is going to be located today. So the both plans show stormwater retention areas that were proposed and approved. However, they were never built. They were never developed. So staff is proposing a condition to address that as part of the approval.
I'm sorry, could you point exactly where on the map? Okay. That's here.
There's a better, yeah, it's like
The shape is different.
it is. So we noticed this during our research of this use that this was never developed. So again, in 1995, it was a similar scenario. So I wanted to point that out because again, we did condition this to get this addressed as part of the approval. The owner has consented, has agreed to the condition to get it developed or work with city engineers to get a plan in place to address it.
Is there a time frame for that?
Yes, the condition I believe is that within 1 year. And we'll go over that, we'll go over the two conditions. There's also some landscaping conditions that the owner has agreed to. So the project is consistent with comprehensive plan, strategic plan, the city's LDRs, as conditioned and conditional use standards. And staff is recommending approval with conditions. So we'll look at the utilities condition. So the previous approved stormwater management area shall be restored within 1 year, or alternate improvements that meet current stormwater requirements as approved by the city engineer shall be installed. And then we did provide landscape conditions. The landscape review was looked at again as reviewed at the 1993 approval. And you'll see that this is just addressing some, mainly some perimeter and mechanical equipment screening requirements that meet today's code. And I'm available for any questions. That concludes my presentation. And I do believe the tenant is here. I'm not sure if they have a presentation, but they're also here to answer any questions.
Would the tenant like to say anything? Or the applicant?
If you have any questions.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm not used to public.
I just want to note that the owner was not available to be here tonight. So the tenant can probably address any questions related to the business.
What he said. My name is Chris Curtis. This is Rizal Khan. I'm the general manager of the company. So we're applying for this wholesale distribution over here. So if you have any question related to that, we're happy to answer that.
Thank you. Any questions from staff?
I guess I have one question. So you got a 1 year time frame, and it's a substantial, I know from hiring an engineer, getting planning approved, and getting it constructed and built within 1 year is fairly tight. Your enforcement mechanism is code enforcement if it doesn't happen in 1 year, and that would be a code enforcement to the owner, not to the applicant.
Yeah, the owner. I did talk to the owner and have been working with her. There's actually another project coming in next month, hopefully, at pretty much the same location. So she has agreed to ensure that this gets addressed within that time frame. And you're correct; it would be a code enforcement scenario, and then we would be working with code enforcement to work this out.
And the owner feels a year is enough time to kind of get this. Otherwise, you'll issue an extension if necessary. It doesn't have to come back to us if you needed to.
What would happen is basically if they didn't get it done in a year, they'd be issued a notice of violation. Then they would have, typically we'd give them 60 days to comply the violation. And then if they didn't comply the violation, then they would go to special magistrate. I hear what you're saying. I think you bring up a valid point. It is tight these days. So I don't feel an additional 6 months would hurt anybody. So if you wanted to amend the condition, as a board member and make it 18 months, but I hesitate to make it longer than 18 months because the code enforcement process can take up to a year itself. So.
Right. I think I would leave it at a year, but I would say 1 year. And I mean, so I just want to make sure that staff has the ability to extend it if necessary, because a lot of it has to do with what's happening. If you hear nothing from them in a year and you go out there and nothing's done, but if they've submitted plans and they've started construction, but it's not completed, I could easily see staff wanting to give an extension.
Could I make a suggestion? And we do this with code. Are we doing the staggered condition? This is are we thinking the same thing? I feel like we're thinking the same thing. Sometimes we do when we work with people in code is we do this thing where we give them so many months to apply for a site plan and then so many months to complete the improvement. And then we can issue a code violation if they're not in compliance with the requirement to submit in a time frame. So
I don't know if they get that, but
The other thing is what I think might help you is that if it does end up in code enforcement and it goes to the magistrate and the applicant is making strides, but having issues with permit reviews or the engineers aren't doing what they're supposed to do or whatnot, there are hangups in that process. The magistrate will extend the time and ask them to come back and show that they're still working on it and how far they've gotten. So
I
They
guess
won't.
my question is, before it gets there, does staff have the ability to themselves grant an extension beyond this 1 year? If there's communication between staff and they see that it's happening and it's under construction.
We have that authority through the code enforcement process.
Okay.
So
So if you already have that, we don't need to amend something here. I just want, again, I'm all about flexibility with regarding these.
But it does, I mean, if you are interested in amending, it does sometimes help us if we have a staggered, and maybe Scott and I we should have probably done that, is like within 8 months, you need to have a site plan, you need to have an application in, and then within 18 months, you need to have it complete. You know, sometimes something like that is good because like you said, the engineering is taking a little longer these days. So it's your food for thought. You want to.
I'm willing to.
You're the board member, Dan. It's your world's your oyster here.
That's beneficial to you. I have no problem. But if you're saying, no, we'd rather keep it at a year and we already have enough flexibility, then I'm fine.
I think we're good either way.
Yeah. All right. That means
I mean, I do like the idea of them implementing something in a certain time frame that's staggered, and if it's something that you were kind of already considering. Just because I think that puts a little bit more pressure on them to actually get it done, right? Because they have to submit the plans and all of that.
Okay. So if you guys are interested, I would recommend 8 months to, I would say actually 7 months. 7 months, you think? Well, engineering is taking 3 months now to get plans. 6 months?
I would say 6 months to submit. That
6
gives
months.
some time for the approval process, but they have 6 months to submit for approval and 18 months to complete construction.
Okay, I like that. Sounds good. So if somebody, when they make their motion, they would need to include that amended condition in the motion.
And gentlemen, I would make sure, you're at least in your discussions with the property owner that you're aware of these timelines as well. This is part of your conditions for approval, but it's his responsibility to take care of it. So you just need to every once in a while put a bug in his ear and make sure he's doing it.
Anybody else on staff have questions? I have a couple of questions. You're already in business in this location,
Yes, sir.
right? How long?
No,
how
sir,
long-
not in this location, sir.
Oh, okay.
We have another location is in Congress and Summit. We are
Okay.
in business over there. We are willing to move in this bigger location to expand our business.
Okay, great. What is it that you do distribution of specifically?
All right, we do own like almost 100 locations of our own, like gas stations, C-stores, and other kind of locations. It's our own locations. So we do the service on these stores, like all kind of necessary things from novelty to tobacco, cigar, all the inventory they need. We gather it here, we repack it and deliver it to all the stores of our own. And we have some other friends stores, so we deliver to them too.
So do you have your own trucks that you?
No,
You
for
or-
now, we are not using our own transportation. We rely on the UPS, most of them.
Oh.
And we have some managers who bring their truck and take this to just normal pickup trucks. It's not like delivery vans. We don't in that scale right now. We are in bigger pickup truck scale right now.
And so your distribution area is mostly local?
It's West Palm Beach up to Boca, Pompano, right? Up to Pompano.
I actually take care of the distribution part on this side. So what I do is we have about 100 stores anywhere from, it's the east coast of Florida, all the way from Jacksonville, all the way to Miami. So we basically rebox and sort out. We buy in bulk and then resort out to which store is going to require which products and then push it out. So usually UPS will come pick up loads for the stores that are going up north. Anything down south from West Palm Beach all the way to Miami. It's me and 2 other guys that come pick up with our trucks. We fill up the back, probably 30, 40 boxes, and then head down south and we do our distribution.
Thank you.
No problem.
So you mentioned you're expanding. Does that mean that you may require more than just one UPS and one pickup truck?
No. Bigger trailer.
Ah,
If I may, first off, thank you for bringing your business to town. Second, if correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the goods you will be storing here and distributing to these stores, will there be anything outside of the realm of essentially perishable and non-perishable consumer goods?
The only thing perishable usually is water.
Understood.
Water or any fruit drinks, candy. Candy usually rotates every year. Chips are good on the shelf 3 to 6 months, depending on who it's packaged by. But no,
Understood.
when we register with the food, with the FDA,
Mhm.
they'll usually explain to us which location would be specifically for your perishable. So,
I
but we
understand.
will follow up to codes with that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely understand. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the vast majority, if not entirely, of the items are food intake items, beverages, things like that.
It's a mix.
Well, amongst you might
Grocery
have
bags,
those grocery bags, things like that. Okay, but I suppose really what I'm getting at is the things that you will, I am an insurance broker by trade. So when I see a warehouse, my mind goes to liability. What is in the warehouse? What is the risk to nearby buildings or anything like that? It's safe for me to say the items in there aren't going to self-combust, or you don't have any oil or chemical leaking problems into the foundation or soil. We're talking chips, tobacco, things like that
No.
here.
We keep the rotation down to about 4%.
Superb.
Yeah,
Thank you
which
so
is the best
much.
numbers that everybody asks for.
Thank you.
Anybody else on staff? I'm sorry. Board
We're
member.
doing our best.
I'm sorry.
And it's typically gas stations that you're delivering to?
Yes, ma'am. Gas stations, C stores.
Solely or mostly?
Gas stations, convenience store, mostly 100, like 95%.
I'd make a motion to approve with the amended condition of 6 months for application and 18 months for approval on the stormwater repair.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Next item is PZB project number 22-009000002. Consideration of a mixed-use urban plan development, major site plan conditional use permit, CUP, and sustainable bonus incentive program. Request for the project commonly referred to as Lake Worth Station. And I'll just stop there and let staff take over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Erin Sita with Community Sustainability. As you stated, this is a mixed-use urban plan development with a major site plan, conditional use permit, sustainable bonus incentive program. This project is requesting at 930 North G Street, a 5-story 81 dwelling unit mixed-use development. 39 of these units will qualify and be deed restricted to workforce housing. It also has some office space. The sustainable bonus request adds additional density and height. The property is zoned transit-oriented development east. You can see the location here is south of 10th Avenue North and east of North G Street along the FEC right-of-way. And again, the zoning is TOD East. As we kind of walked through before, this request is by Ricardo Hernandez of Bridge Holdings. The mixed use PD is 5 stories and 81 units. Now, because some of you are new, I will walk through kind of the reason why we have so many application types is when something like this that's a little more complex will check off several different types of application review. And I know Dan knows this because we've cooked up some interesting projects he's brought in before. So this one is a plan development. So the plan development, when you are a plan development, you have to be a certain size, have to have a certain amount of acres. This is an urban plan development. You need a 1/2 an acre to be an urban plan development. Also, this is a major site plan because we're going to have more than 7,500 square feet. It's a conditional use permit, again, because it's going to be more than 7,500 square feet of residential. We talked a little bit about in the last applications how we have permitted by right, administrative use permits, and conditional use permits. And then this also has a sustainable bonus request. So how we treat these large applications is you get the presentation and includes all this required sub-applications, and we present it all together as one item. So again, here's a bird's eye view of this vacant site. It is surrounded by the future land use on all sides is transit-oriented development. The zoning district on the north and south is TOD, on the east is mixed-use Dixie Highway, and on the west is TOD as well along the railroad tracks. Here's a site plan. Again, you can see the building fronts primarily 10th Avenue North and North G Street. And it is 5 stories. 2 of those stories are, 3 stories are actually sustainable bonus. Sorry, that was a little typo. There is co-work space and leasing space. There are 63 one-bedroom units as part of this request. So when you have a planned development, part of the benefit of having a planned development is that it allows you as an applicant to request a reduction in the LDR requirements or a waiver to those requirements. As part of this application, they are requesting 2 modifications to the underlying LDR requirements. LDR means land development regulations. So one of them is to reduce the living space for the one-bedroom units from 600 square feet to 584 square feet. This is a 16 square foot reduction. There are 102 parking spaces provided. 2 of those spaces are bicycle rack spaces. So in our code, we have the ability, or we allow for alternate parking to qualify as parking spaces. So, and because this particular project is a mixed use project, it qualifies for a reduction in the required parking. So the required parking for this particular project is 98 spaces because it qualifies as a mixed use urban plan development. There are also 12 on-street spaces. Mixed-use projects and non-residential projects or multifamily projects can count on-street spaces as well. We also, in our code, we have a requirement for electric vehicles. 4% of all required parking has to be in EV spaces. There are 4 EV spaces in the northeast corner of the project. So here is, again, the architectural rendering. We did not ask the applicant to update the rendering, but we did ask them to change the color palette because we felt it was a little dark. So in your architectural elevations, you can see here is the updated color palette. It's a little bit less gray, more whites and taupes with the blue detail on the front on the tower element. Again, here's the west elevation. This is along North G Street. And then this is the east elevation that would front the alley. So some of our analysis in your packet, you'll see there's typically a table. I just will note that we had a typo we missed in our proofreading. The 98 was over here, but basically there are 98 spaces required and 102 provided. So that will be updated when it goes to City Commission, but I wanted to clarify that for the record. It is consistent with the LDRs with the requested reduction, which would include the setback reduction along Northeast Street because the configuration of the lot is quite narrow to allow a little more landscaping along the east side of the project and to allow adequate travel with lane widths. The setback is going to be reduced from 10 feet to 9 feet. So it's a 1 foot reduction along the G Street, and the 1-bedroom unit size is being proposed to be reduced by 16 square feet. So that is the table. These are the LDR requirements we review for. There's no additional flexibility being requested for this particular project. So talking about sustainable bonus. So after we issued the staff report, we had a follow-up discussion with the applicant. So they wanted to tweak their proposed on-site improvements. So I'm going to walk you through their proposed on-site improvements. So 4-story in the city, basically anything that is above 2 stories requires our sustainable bonus program. And our sustainable bonus basically fee is calculated by the bonus area square footage times either $7.50 or $15. So for the floors that are asking for additional height only, which are floors 3 and 4, the square footage per value is $7.50 a square foot. And for the 5th floor, which is where the additional 15 density or additional bonus density is coming, or is going to be allocated, that particular floor was $15 a square foot. So that's where we get our total sustainable bonus fee of $391,350. Under a resolution by the City Commission, 50% of that fee is required to be paid to the city. Another 50% will be provided in on-site improvements equal to value, but not less than $195,675. Now, because 48% of the project is workforce housing, 48% of that $195,000 figure is counted towards that sustainable bonus value, which would be $93,924. They are also proposing, Public Works has conditioned as part of this project, they would like to see a sidewalk improvement on the west side of North G Street. Now, typically what is required in the code is that the on-street improvements along a particular, along basically the right-of-way in front of your project, you're required to do that part. So they're required to do that part in front of their project. There's some other things that they're required to do because their on-street parking is going to shift the lane a little bit. They're required to mill and pave and do some other things. Those are things they're required to do because they're creating that need based on their project. But what they're not required to do, and what we're asking them to do, is to do the sidewalk and the signage on the west side of North G Street. So they would like to take that credit because it is an off-street public benefit. They're allowed to take that credit, which is going to be approximately $30,000 as part of their sustainable bonus because it is a public benefit that is not required by our code. Again, there is the public plaza along 10th Avenue North, which is another $30,000, and then the public sculpture, which will be a minimum of $50,000. There is a condition of approval in your staff report related to on-site improvements. And what this says is basically 50% has to be paid to the city, and 50% needs to be provided for in on-site qualifying improvements. If we get to the end and something happens and they don't do the sidewalk or something happen else, instead of providing the qualifying improvements, they will have to cut a check to the city is how the condition reads. And that's kind of how we do it as a standard. So if something happens along the way, they don't lose their whole project. They just cut us a check instead of doing those improvements. Here is the public plaza along 10th Avenue North. The sculpture is going to be right here. Maybe a little sculpture there. And you can see, in addition to the 12 on-street parking spaces, what we are requiring now is because these are urban projects, we are typically requiring, where we have multifamily projects like this, we're requiring a delivery and designated delivery and ride share space, because we're hoping that some of these folks are going to ride share instead of park. Here is, this was not included in your packet. The applicant sent to us the backup on the sculptor. I think they're going to have some additional information in their presentation, but you can see here's the sculptor here. as conditioned, this project is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the strategic plan, the LDRs, the criteria for, should say, sorry, not residential plan development districts, should say mixed-use urban plan development districts. Sometimes we reuse these slides. I'm not going to lie to you. So we have the qualitative standards, the community appearance criteria, the specific standards for all conditional uses, and the review and decision criteria for the sustainable bonus improvement program. So all of these criteria are reviewed as part of the analysis in your staff report. And then a lot of these criteria, the analysis is available in the tables as attachments in the back. So you can see all of that. And then just to walk you through your staff report, since you guys, a lot of you are new, and this is a hefty project, you can see the first page, we kind of give you the location and then the basic stuff. And then we talk about what is the scope and the description, and then the consistency with the district and the comp plan. And then there's always in there, there's always a big long table that takes you through all the little different things we review for the district. And then as well, we go through dumpster, lighting, off-street parking requirements, loading, landscape requirements, and then of course our site qualitative requirements and analysis with the attached tables in the back and a sustainable bonus analysis. So that's available to you. And if you have any questions about how the staff reports are constructed and you want to call me, please give me a ring and I'm happy to walk you through. We try to keep a standard format to make it easy for you guys to review. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. So that concludes my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and put up the applicant's presentation and ask them to introduce themselves and come up. I know you guys aren't shy, so come on up.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Annabella Garcia. I'm from the Martin Architectural Group. I'm the architect for this project. We're very familiar with your city, and we're very pleased to be providing you this great opportunity, especially for the people that cannot afford your luxury living. So our project is going to consist of 5 stories. Like we talked about, it will have a co-work space on the ground floor for residents and also for citizens that can rent out the facility to host any meetings, any tiny promotions or any type of use regard business. We have our leasing office on the ground floor, easy access. It's right off facing our plaza, which is on the main corner of the building. And we have a wonderful amenity package on the 5th floor, facing the alley portion that will have an outdoor ping pong table. It will have some lounge chairs, a barbecue area for the residents to use, and a wonderful view, a private view to the inside of the project. It will be facing the alley, not the main streets of the street. Oh, can you go to the, all right, on our ground floor, you can see towards the right side of the slide where we have, can you point out where the co-work space is, Irene?
These are the co-work spaces here, right?
Let me see.
No, here.
It's on the opposite side.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where we're offering 4 little offices and a little gathering area there. It has its own private bath and it services that particular use. It's a business oriented. And then on the bottom side, it's where we have our leasing office. That's our packaging area. 1 person staff will be there. And we have bathrooms and a little club room to welcome the new residents. Then pretty much the rest of the building, on the center portion, we have oriented all the 1-bedroom units. And then on the corners, we have the 2 2-bedroom units. Irene, can you go to the 2nd floor?
Mm-hmm.
2nd floor is very typical. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor are identical. So corners are your biggest units, your 2-2 center units will be your 1-1s. We have 2 staircases. We're meeting code requirements, 1 elevator, mechanical room, storage area in all the levels. When you go to the last floor, and this is what I mean when we go to the 5th floor, we have a great amenity area. We decided to take those center space facing the alley, our interior parking lot area, and that's where we're going to have all the amenities for the residents. Can you go to the next slide? That's well, the city wanted to know how we were going to treat our mechanical units, and they're all be on the service roof. We have the height of the parapets are high enough, so you're not going to be able to see the condensing units, even because, you know, they sit on stands, so they get kind of tall. But we have high enough parapets to protect everything. Next slide. All right, we have designed this in some sort of industrial modern look. It's very simple building, but it has a lot of, you know, wow effects. Not all the 3 of the corners are identical and 1 is unique. It's very distinct. And that's the blue corner. Can you go to the next slide? All right, on the blue corner, we decided to do it to call attention. That brings in the focal point of our building, and that indicates where your leasing office will be, and that's where the plaza will be, and people can gather. Can you go to the next slide? All right, here we go with the floor plans. We got the 2-2 on the corners. Great, nice space. We have a great room area with the kitchen, dining room, living room, and then we have the 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, a stackable washer and dryers, air condition, and mechanical units. 1 bedrooms are a great room space, bedroom, closet, and bathroom. Again, same mechanical and utility facility. Next slide. This is the leasing office. It has a little conference or meeting area, a little cafe area with a great room concept, and the leasing office up to the front. Bathroom and packaging area, which today it needs to be quite large because everybody uses Amazon, UPS, everything will be kind of delivered in this room. Next slide. That's the co-work space. We're proposing 4 little spaces with a little gathering room, a little conference area, bathroom facilities, meeting code. Next slide. And this is our amenity. We're proposing, you know, a lounge, barbecue area, the trellis, the lounge area, and an outdoor ping pong table. We also are providing a full bathroom and a little bit of storage on the upper floor. Next slide. Well, this is pretty much the look. It's going to be kind of on your high-end industrial. We went back and forth. We had different colors proposed, and then the city said, well, we had darker colors, and they said we wanted lighter. So we reconsidered, and this is what we're proposing. It's really the blue. It's a light gray taupe. It's not really taupe. Do we have do you recall the paint colors? Do you have it, Irene?
Yeah.
Because the city was so afraid, like, please don't use any more gray. We have enough gray in our city, but this is not gray. So,
Hold on. It's on the elevations. Just give me a second.
yeah, it's a very pretty taupe. Believe it or not, it has a little bit of green, and then we pick a really nice blue that could call out attention, which this is what we want and we'll like. And then it's a little taupe on the ground floor. Every entrance will be gated, will be secure. And we have also created some privacy walls along both of our parking lot areas as per city's request. That's okay.
I'll pull it. Okay. Give me a second. We'll have to go through. I'll pull it up and we can do it at the end.
Okay. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, this is pretty much our civil engineer. Oh, well,
Okay.
it's super important that when we walked aside, we realized that the city has this beautiful little monument sign indicating, the brick monuments with a sitting in between, indicating which street you're in. We thought it was a phenomenal idea to create that plaza. And in the plaza, we thought, well, people will be sitting, waiting, or, just walking around. It will be a great, phenomenal place to put this beautiful sculpture. The sculpture is not going to fly away. It's very heavy. It will be anchored. It will be bolted on a concrete base. So it will meet all the wind pressures. It's not going anywhere. Well, you could see there our civil engineering plan. Oh, yeah, that's the sculpture. Actually, the developer is already in conversations with him, and he's, we're trying. We don't know exactly what shape it will be or what form it will have, but it will be something that, will enhance that corner.
There is a condition of approval. There is the Lula organization. So the final sculpture will be reviewed by the CRA's Lula program prior to installation.
Yep. This is our master site plan civil engineering drawings. As you can see on the north portion of the slide, we have one of the entrances, and on the south side of the slide, on the left side, it will be pretty much our secondary. We're proposing also a dumpster that will be enclosed and properly landscape. We are complying with all the landscape requirements as well. We're putting a lot of trees, hedges, and some important palm trees focusing where our entrances will be. Next slide. The civil engineering is here. Do you have any questions for her? No, so
I
far?
have questions, but I don't know if it's pertaining to that specifically.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So do you handle like your traffic and radius?
Dan, turn on your.
Thank
you. Patricia Ramuto, IBI Group. I am the engineer of record. Yes.
So have you also looked at kind of like turn radiuses and access and things like
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay, so specific to your entrance on Dixie Highway. So the city of Lake Worth considers the alleyways as access points.
This is not on Dixie. though.
It's on 10.
Sorry, specifically your entrance on 10th.
Okay.
Yes, 10th Avenue. The alleyways are considered access points in the city. I believe that they're used. In fact, the building that is directly to the east of you parks in the back and uses the alley to get in and out of parking. And it looks like a commercial facility. I don't know exactly what they use. So your proposal has an exiting driveway that's about 10 feet away from another exit onto 10th Avenue. And I'm just concerned about the traffic impacts. If somebody is coming out of one while somebody's turning out of the other, and that could cause congestion. And then I also just heard, I think, unless I misheard you, that you're proposing to have gates for access to.
Only for our building, not for the parking
Not for
lot.
the parking lot, gates for getting in, just
Mhm.
secured access in and out of it.
Mhm.
Okay. The other question was if you were gonna have a gate there backing up on 95. But in terms of having two different, I think there are usually traffic standards with regards to how far apart exits are onto a road.
So if you're referring to the separation of driveway connections to the right of way, we have this access doesn't fall into that category, but there is a stop sign that will allow with a visibility for an exiting vehicle to be aware of his surroundings and any other vehicles turning into the alley or vice versa.
So you'll have visibility where if somebody pulls up to exit onto 10th Avenue heading east, that they would be able to see if there's a car approaching.
Yes, that's
the
correct.
alleyway
Mhm.
as well. And as a city, from a traffic standpoint, I know typically when you're putting egress points onto a road like 10th Avenue, there's some traffic standard in terms of how far apart those entrances are from each other. Has the city looked at with regards to the distance between the alleyway? and the-
Yeah, all of our applications are looked at by the city engineer, who also reviews for traffic. And so this application went through our site plan review team, and they felt like it was going to work. There are other locations where there are driveways on 10th Avenue where it is tight, where there are other access points that are like that. We typically don't like that, but there is an alternate entrance, which would probably be the main entrance. This is predominantly a right in, right out. So I think that's why they probably, I don't know what they were thinking, but I imagine that's what they were thinking, is because it's a right turn out.
And if I could point out, there is a channelized island for the ingress and egress. So that inbound would have to turn in on the west side of the island, and the egress would have to stop and then take the outbound circulation. So it prevents a left turn.
Okay. And then the only other question is on your impervious, I see you're using impervious concrete to account for a lot of the impervious requirements.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then in addition to that, you set up storm drainage and an exfiltration trench.
That's correct.
Okay.
So this is what she was talking about, is that there's a traffic control median here. So it limits, it would not allow a left turn into there.
It's only right. When you're coming out from our side, it's only a right turn. People will not be able to go left. You can come in, but you cannot make a left turn.
Anything.
I know when they did like the 7-Eleven, when that was built, they basically improved on the alleyway, and they used the alleyway as the exit, so they weren't putting two exits right next to each other. And that's one of the concerns that I have. So just trying to still wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Going out, and if somebody's coming out the other way, both are at the stop sign and they're looking at each other, they both go, they're pretty much, very close to each other. And so usually there's distance separation requirements for driveways coming out. But that's all the questions I have for civil.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, apologies, as simply put, I don't have the schematics or the designs memorized at this point, but would it be possible for a tenant or a resident of this building to essentially exit the building with their vehicle, drive through the alley, and then cut across traffic across 10th Avenue?
There's no access to the alley. On
No
the site
access to the
plan
alley.
on
That's
this
really all I just needed confirmation of. Thank you. Perfect.
Anybody else on staff?
I have a question for staff. Could staff? Oh, I'm sorry.
I said staff. I meant to say on the board. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, quite all right. Question for staff. Could you please define workforce housing to me?
Sure. So workforce housing, there is a county definition. We don't have our own program. So deed restricted workforce housing, we would require it to be deed restricted through the county's program at this point, or to utilize our program, which will be adopted soon. Typically, that is 80% to 140% of the county's median income. So that's in that range. So I can't remember what William said the county's median is. I think it's in the $70,000, like high 70s for the county.
Household income, you said? Thank you.
So, and I believe that high 70s number, I think it's for an average household of 4. So, so it would be, if it's not, it might even be in the 80s now. So it would be 80 to 140% of median income. So it would be, typically 1-bedroom units are usually on the lower range, which would be 80% of that $77,000 number. So, and then it's, the county program has a web page where if it's deed restricted through that program, that they have a maximum rent per unit type. So there's a maximum rent for a 1-bedroom unit and and it's broken down into different income categories. There's low to mid to high workforce housing. And typically there's a distribution. I imagine because they're one bedrooms and the market here, they'd probably be looking for mostly into the low to the low mid is what I imagine. I don't know if you guys looked at the rent price points, but yeah.
Do we have an idea of what monthly rent would be for someone who is a working class resident who, let's say, bartends at Dave's downtown?
Well, people who bartend at Dave's probably make a lot.
Actually, you know, that's actually a pretty good point. They make a lot of tips there.
They probably make more than a teacher.
I suppose what I'm getting at is, you know, if you know, there's not a single person in the city who doesn't believe that, you know, people who work here and do many of the jobs here are struggling to live here, from, you know, city staff to hospitality or anything in between. And so I understand the definitions, and fortunately it is medium Palm Beach County income, but, you know, we cannot also forget that Palm Beach County is a remarkably wealthy county, and that certainly has an effect on averages as well as medians. And so I suppose my concern is, to some degree, you know, is workforce housing actually going to be affordable to our workers here in Lake Worth?
So the average rent in here is quite high in Lake Worth, to be quite frank, for any type of unit that is of a nice quality. There's a lot of units that are not very expensive, but are not maybe the best. And I'll tell you that my staff has had a difficult time finding housing, even in Lake Worth. And the places that they have found housing have actually been at the mid, because the mid has been the most affordable, nicest, and that is not an income restricted. And that was the most affordable or attainable for them to get a one bedroom, which is, so the one bedrooms for the low are the range is between $1,035 and $1,380 a month.
That's reasonable.
That's very reasonable. So the moderate is $1,380 to $1,725, which most one bedroom market rates in Lake Worth Beach that are new construction are going for around $1,800. So it's a little bit less than what market rate is. For the mods 2 would be $17,000 to $2,000. That would probably be, I don't think that's probably what you guys would be renting for. I think that's not the market here, you know. So Lake Worth has the price point for 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom that I've been seeing just dinking around on Zillow and Realtor for newer construction has been upwards for a 1 bedroom of upwards of $2,000 in West Palm Beach. So,
But do we know what they're planning on renting it for?
Well, I don't know. Do you have your final rent price yet?
We don't have, you know, we have 39 units for workforce housing, and we're gonna comply with the table that the county, because this is a county program, we need to comply with them. So the 39 people that show up the first day, they have to show the tax returns. So we see how much they make, payroll statements if they have, and based on that salary, let's say is a single person, based on that salary, we take the table and we say, well, you have to pay this much here. If it's a couple, they have to show both combined, and then we see the table, and that is for 39 units. The rest is going to be market, but it's going to be dictated by the market. We don't know how much it's going to be 2 years from now, the market.
Okay, so the first 39 is kind of like a lottery. Is that what you're saying, that there's?
Well, it's first come, first serve.
Sure.
Yes. And when one of the unit vacates, you know, and somebody show up, of course, we're going to have waiting list and all the things that we need to do, but it's that way. It's, you know, first come, first serve. As soon as we complete it, we fill the 39 units, the rest of the unit are going to be market rents.
Okay. So I just have a few general questions. So I used to work in an architecture firm in Jersey City, and they developed Hoboken and all of that. So the design that you have is very similar to the design that we've done up north. So I'm happy that you changed the color, because that is what I'm used to in Jersey City, and I got away from that. So just out of sheer curiosity though, were there other color palettes that you were considering? I'm going to start cosmetic, and then I'm going to get to like the details about it.
Okay. Well, I have to respect what the client likes, right? So he likes pretty much the blues, the taupes, obviously no greens, no warm side on the spectrum. He's more, all his developments are pretty much white and a lot of variety of different grays and blues. So I had to respect his opinion, and then we came up with this color scheme. When we presented the very first scheme, the gray was more like a charcoal gray, and the blue was more to the teal. And well, as per recommendations, they said, please try to consider lowering the gray, try to use a different tone. And we came up with a taupe. Now it's taupe, white, that very beautiful blue, and that other color, which I can't come up with the color. I'm sorry. I thought I remember, because we went back and forth with a palette of colors multiple times. So my apologies. But
no, some of the sorry not to cut you off, but some of the high rises that we've done in Jersey City, they do choose a wall for a mural, and I know murals is not a constant thing, but you see that around the city.
Yes.
Have you considered maybe a wall of that, maybe in the back of the alley?
The problem with this building is very narrow, very, very narrow and very long. So in order to pick a mural, we don't have, and the building recesses very slightly. So when you do a mural, it's hard to pick a side on the long elevation. If we do it towards the front, Irene, can you put the front?
Yes.
Elevation?
I just.
Oops.
I'm struggling. No. I'm frustrated with the computer. So.
And by the front, do you mean 10th Ave?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we only have one wall that.
Right, because 9th is you're next to someone else's property back there. Right.
Yeah.
Is that why you chose the art installation in the front?
We decided to go with a sculpture because I think it blends better with what we want to propose on the plaza. We have a really nice walkway. We're putting benches, a really nice ground coverage. I mean, it's going to be a really nice area to sit down and wait for a ride, or just to walk around and just enjoy that area.
In terms of the sculpture, the developer's already working with someone. I was just curiosity, since Lula has to approve if a suggestion was made in terms of choosing a local sculptor from Lake Worth.
No, we have this artist that I know. I'm working with him in other properties, and I have seen his work in Miami, but we are open. We are not, tied to these artists. You can work
I'm
with
just
somebody.
curious if that's, sorry, not to cut you off again. I'm just curious, is that something that maybe we could add a suggestion? Maybe they could choose out of, say, like 3 different artists, 2 of them maybe being locals, and the one that you prefer, and see.
So we do not condition them to the artist. The condition of approval is for the Lula sculpture. It is for the Lula to approve the sculpture, so they could change. So we could add a condition of approval to recommend that if feasible, that they select a Lake Worth sculptor, because there may not be a Lake Worth sculptor that specializes in outdoor commercial grade sculptures. You know what I mean? So there may not be a person who does this kind of thing here,
I mean, I just, because I personally know someone that does sculptures. They've done it at like an airport, and I mean, that's also indoors, so who knows. But I know that there's an artistic opportunity out there, and I was just wondering if maybe that's a suggestion. So, and in terms of landscaping, so you said that you would have like some outdoor in the front, and you had mentioned palm trees. Is that something that maybe we wanted to do natural? I was trying to find this landscaping section and I couldn't.
Yeah, so the landscaping and section is analyzed in there. The analysis is going to be on page 6 of your staff report. So we have a native species requirement in our code. And so they meet all of our landscaping requirements. They do have a few palms at their entrances. They are Alexander palms that are it is a double Alexander palm, because it is a more urban area. And they also have a pigeon plum. And what's also not shown in here is that there is a live oak as well in the area, in the not a swale area, but it's basically in the grass area.
Right away.
And the right of way. So there's also a live, currently, and that will remain. So there's a live oak. They're going to plant a pigeon plum. Then there is a double, there's 2 Alexander palms that are double twin palms. on the landscape plan. So when you're looking at your packet, I'm going to show you some of what you get in the link. So unfortunately, because of our ADA requirements, we can't put all the plans online, even though we would super love that because it makes our life a lot easier. So I'm just going to share with you kind of what your packet that you get. And just for the folks out there at home, anybody who wants a copy of the plans can just send an email into staff, our pzoning@lakeworthbeachfl.gov, and they can go and we'll send them the link. We're happy to do that, and they can take a look at the plans to their heart content. So in your packet, you're always going to see all these other plan sets. So you can see here that this is going to be the landscape plan. And then if you look here, if you've never reviewed a landscape plan, it's a little bit it makes your brain hurt sometimes. So you can see here that it says PTX and it points.
Are you saying something?
Yes, of course it's not sharing. Okay, so that's great. Here we go. I have to share each file. So you can see here, this is the landscape plan, and you can see this says PTX and it points to this little thing. And then you can see how this is in here. It says QVE. Anything that says QV, that's a live oak. Okay. And then the PTX.
It refers to the plan list on the side.
And then you're just going to scroll down here and you're going to go, okay, what is a PTV? Well, a PTV, what is a PTV or PTX? Oh, the PTX, sorry. It's an Alexander Palm medium. And it is going to have a double. That means it has two trunks.
Yes.
So it's a double.
Yeah.
So that's how you look at your landscape plan and you can check out the stuff. And it also has in here, you can see it says native and non-native. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants, including shrubs and trees on the thing that are not natives. And so they exceed our native requirement.
Yeah, the minimum good afternoon. My name is Andres Montero. I'm the landscape architect working on the project. And as Irene was saying, we do comply with the landscape requirements, fully comply with them. And, it's native. I particularly I've been here in Florida for 25 years, and I try to use as many native plants as possible because it's, they require less maintenance, they do better and all that. So the requirement for percentage of native trees is 75%. We are at 78. We're exceeding that by 3%. And on shrubs and ground cover, it's again 75% native, and we are at 98%. So it means that only 2% of the shrubs and ground cover are not native, but they're needed for color or for texture and accent points. Most of the trees are native, or actually all the trees are native. Only a few palms because of the limited space between the side, around the building, between the sidewalk and the face of the building, especially on the east side. And also to accentuate the entrances to the building, they were using the Alexander palms and also Dutch palms, which are native.
Thank you.
Any other questions on landscape?
Don't think so. I'm sure one question there, we talked about a live oak. Is that a tree that's existing on the site?
Yes, would be the northwest corner of the right of way. There is an existing, I believe it's a bus stop, right? There's a bench and it's a detail, the low wall with the name of the street. And along that right of way, there are existing live oaks planted there. One of them is going to have to be removed, and we're mitigating for that. It's not in very good condition anyway, but it's because of where the parking access in and out of 10th Street, 10th Avenue North. But it's pretty much, we're keeping what's there. We're not modifying any planting or, any of that right away.
Thank you.
I have some questions in regards to parking. So who would that go to?
If I may, real quick, I just
Yeah,
have one
sure.
landscaping question.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Curious, what's the ground cover?
Well, ground covers, what is ground
Yeah,
cover?
no. What will it be?
We're proposing? We're proposing native grasses, green island ficus, which is probably the only one that is not native, that is not naturalized. It's been here long enough that we almost call it native. And it's very hardy. It's used in, a lot of streetscapes and areas of heavy traffic. That's pretty much it. We have another non-native, which is at 2%. It's African iris. It's another grass that has flowers, and they bloom pretty much all year round. Those are pretty much the ground covers that we're using. A muley grass.
No, I'm happy to hear there's some pollinators in there. So thank you.
Hi. So just if my memory is correct, I think you had mentioned that there's 102 or 98 parking spots.
There are 98 required spaces, and they are providing 102. And
But two of them are provided.
2 of them are bicycle racks, which for a total of parking of 8 bicycles.
So those spots, they're within the complex, and are they assigned and guest parking basically?
The only ones that are assigned are the EV spaces. The tandems will go to the 2-bedroom units.
Okay.
And obviously the office parking. The ride share and deliveries are on G Street.
On the North G Street. Got it. Okay. And is a question in regards to why the 1-bedrooms were reduced in square footage. Is that a question for you as well?
If you want, I could address it, but it's just less than 3% below the required. And it's just Annabella could answer, but it's just the way that the configuration of the unit resulted.
So you were planning for that, but then when you actually put, the plans together, you realized that you weren't reducing it for any other reason.
No.
Adding it to another place like the community lounge or anything like that. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
I have a question for city staff. Sorry to loop back to the workforce housing, but is there, simply because I'm just unfamiliar with the county regulation, I know you mentioned that the city is introducing some sort of program or aspect. Is there any light you can shed on that?
They had a reading last night. So basically it will be a requirement for workforce units that are related to the density bonus. So they would actually exceed what would be required under the proposed plan or proposed ordinance change.
I understand. Now, are these things granted, they exceed what the city is coming up with, so that's optimal and wonderful for us. But I suppose for the sake of my own curiosity, would that apply retroactively to applicants who have the workforce housing with the county now would not be under the regulation of the city if and when the city do proceed on something like that?
No.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
I just have a couple questions. So I'm a little concerned with this project being 5 stories. It's 2 are allowed by right. Oh, okay. So let's repeat that. I'm concerned with the project being 5 stories when 2 is the initial, what's allowable by right. I understand it's part of the sustainable bonus incentive program. There's no public comment on this. Is that correct?
I do have 2 comments received from the public.
Okay. Have we gotten to that point? I may be jumping ahead.
I think on that note, because I also have some questions, could you walk us through how that, because I don't see it myself when I look at it. I see the 2 stories and then I see the sustainable bonus all in that area when we gave a maximum of the 3. And then we've got the PUD, which I think gives another 25%. To round up gets you 4, but I don't quite see how.
Sure. So whenever you have a plan development in most jurisdictions, including ours, typically the density and the height that are listed in the comprehensive plan, the plan development goes to that maximum. The transit-oriented development zoning district is one of our most intensive zoning districts in the city. It is intended to accommodate multifamily and mixed-use projects. So the maximum density for a plan development is 60 units an acre. So the additional density bonus is 25% over what is in the table. So the density bonus is 25% over 60 units, which yields 75 units. The same thing for the height as well. Now, the sustainable bonus program has 2 tiers. Okay, so
Sorry, you could, the density, I understand the height, I still don't. So when you apply that to height.
Sure. So it's the same principle. It is a 25% increase over what the maximum is allowed in the table. So what's in the table under sustainable bonus is allowed what's under tier 1. So what happens is in the code, you have the basic by right, well, not really, I mean, it would still require a site plan, but you have the height of the 2 stories. And the intent of the sustainable bonus program was so that projects, when it was developed, that anything above 3 stories, it wasn't to prohibit development above 2 stories. It was so that when development was larger, that development was a higher quality or was providing a community benefit of some kind. So that was the intent of the program. So there's 2 tiers. The first tier is something that would come to you as a major site plan with a sustainable bonus. And then there is a second tier, which would come as part of a plan development, which has final approval authority by the city commission. So basically, if you look in your table, what we walk you through is you'll see, where is it? There it is. I think it's elusive. So this one is the base zoning district, and then this is the mixed use development with the sustainable bonus incentive for the plan development. So this includes the 25% over the maximum of table 1 in the comprehensive plan. So that's where we get that number from. So these are, you can see here what is required. This is what is required, how it's calculated from the table.
Okay, and I think that's what I was looking at as a baseline of being what the zoning district allows. But as soon as you become a PUD,
you go straight to the comp plan.
Table, you go to maximum. So all of, like, for instance, all along 10th Avenue, we've got the mixed use Dixie Highway, but its future land use is also TOD. So basically everything along Dixie Highway, if they were to assemble to get to this density, because I was wondering if just because this was the one like little section of train.
No, so what it would do is go to the maximum of the zoning district. So the comprehensive plan table has the land use, and then it has the zoning districts broken down in the maximum. So it's the maximum for the zoning district. So mixed use Dixie Highway has a different maximum. So unless those properties were rezoned, they would not have the same height or density bonus that this particular property does. And I can pull up the zoning map for you and show you where, but TOD really is along the railroad tracks here. I can pull that for you. And we can pull up the zoning map. So one of the really neat things about Lake Worth Beach is we have adopted our map as our official zoning map, right? So not all jurisdictions. So we actually adopted our GIS layers as our official zoning map. So one of the cool things is you can just do 930 North G Street. Of course, it doesn't find it. That's awesome. Finds it every other time. So you can see here, this is going to be the TOD. And you can see the zoning district, it talks about the future land use. And then the table, again, if you look on our, if you ever need to find, you just Google Lake Worth Beach Planning and Zoning, we pop right up. You can find us. Also on there is going to be our comprehensive plan. And then you can go to the future land use element. We're working on getting all of our elements up, but unfortunately, we haven't had the staff to make them all ADA compliant. So there's a whole process for that. And again, you can see that's residential. And then, of course, then there's TOD, and then there's mixed use Dixie Highway. So that would be the density bonus through there.
Can you point out how can a building be in a TOD? 7 stories or?
So the maximum height on this is going to be for the TOD East is 30 plus 25 plus an additional 25% bonus. So, well, it's all in the table. You know, it's in your table. So it's 68.75 feet. So this proposed height of this building is 54 feet.
So, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So I see where you're saying, where it says plus 25 feet, max 5 stories, right underneath that. But it says dash train station. And within the zoning, I see where it specifically calls out maximum 5 stories with
Right.
train station,
So-
maximum 4 without.
So this is part of a different policy within the comprehensive plan that talks about the maximum, and there's a bonus from that. So this is where that comes from. And this is how we treat all of our plan developments since 2013. This is how we've processed them all. So it's 30 plus 25 plus the additional 25%. And that has to do with the policies that are in the comprehensive plan related to the plan development and the bonus. So the maximum height of this particular mixed-use plan development in TOD East with the full sustainable bonus, which is the second tier, which is the plan development sustainable bonus, is 68.75 feet. The proposed development is at 54 feet and 10 inches.
So, because I know we've got the comp plan and we've got our land development regulations. And within the land development regulations, it specifically references 5 feet with a train station, 4 feet without a train or with a transit.
Right. So if that project came in and complied with the LDRs, it would not be a plan development and could come directly to you for a single hearing and a reading just as the first tier of sustainable bonus. So if it included a train station, you all could approve a 5-story building there. When it is a plan development, then it goes to that second tier. So, for example, like if you were to have a 3-story project, that's well within that first tier of the sustainable bonus. That would not be an ordinance. That would just be a major site plan with a sustainable bonus, and you all would approve it. Because it is the second tier of a sustainable bonus, it's an ordinance. So it is an action by the city commission. And part of a plan development, how plan developments function is they kind of serve as a de facto zoning district. So this is why you can do waivers. This is why, or reductions. This is why you build it all in, is so ultimately the city commission decides this is the most, we have to put the most they can do, but the city commission decides on the final. You all are a recommending body on this project.
Sherry, can you, you said there were 2 public comments on this project?
Have 2. And the first one comes from a person, Catherine Cleary, living at 1017 North H Street. And she said her street has become a shortcut between 10th and Dixie Highway when the light is red. H Street is used as a shortcut. Additionally, North H Street and 10th Avenue has had numerous traffic accidents. Additionally, parking is crazy due to businesses that do not have enough for their businesses. I'm not in agreement with this property. And the second one, probably more to what you're thinking is, this is from the accounting department at Tuppence Marine Service, writing on behalf of the owner, Steve Sprague, located at 1032 North G Street. He has concerns about the 81 dwelling unit development to be built. There has been no mention of where these 81 families will park their cars, and such a small lot could never accommodate as many vehicles. The overflow of vehicles will do harm to the local businesses in the area as well as the pre-existing neighborhoods. There's also concern about safety. Just last month, a man was hit by a train only half a block from the proposed location. It's not a safe place for families. And finally, a 5-story building will be an eyesore towering over the rest of the area. We need more sustainable workforce housing, but cramming 81 families into shoeboxes is not the answer. And those are the 2 comments we have.
Thanks. Quick question for city staff. So according to Exhibit B of the application for the workforce housing program to the county, it would appear that I believe this would be the county designated this, correct me if I'm wrong, that they said 39 total workforce housing units to be provided in the following income categories. And then it goes then to break down 4 income categories as declared by the county for different income brackets. The low category is 9, moderate 1 is 10, moderate 2 is 10, and middle is also 10. Are those numbers submitted by the developers, or are those dictated as what the developers must follow per the county? Is
So,
that something we can ask them to change?
So the county requires 25% in each category. So what they've done is they've restricted themselves to the 3 lowest units. If you all would like to make a recommendation, because remember, you're not approving this project, you are a recommending body. So if you all would like to make a recommendation to amend the condition to have the units be in different categories or a different mix, you can include that as part of your motion.
Just to clarify, you just stated that county regulations require that it be split essentially around 25% in each category.
Right. And then if there's an extra left over, it goes to the lowest one.
I would like to recommend that we move, well, it would appear that low would indicate a rental income of a 1-bedroom apartment, and these are 1-bedroom apartment studio rentals according directly for 2020 in Palm Beach County, the median family income is $90,300 per HUD. This would mean that in 2022, if this business existed today, or excuse me, if this apartment existed today, they would need to list those 1-bedroom workforce houses between $1,035 and $1,380. Next up, the next jump from moderate 1 is, in my opinion, a little steep for someone on this side of the income spectrum. It then goes to $1,380 to $1,725. It is within my own personal opinion. Excuse me, I don't have economic data with me as to the status of the workforce and household incomes in our town. But however, I am inclined to believe we need more low than moderate. And while it only be 1, I would like to recommend that we revise the categories so that it is 10 low, 10 moderate 1, 10 moderate 2, and 9 middle. I believe the workforce housing should push its way towards the lower side rather the upper side. I realize it's only 1. I'm sorry if it seems insignificant.
So are you making a motion? Because as part of it, if you were making a motion, then you would need to include it as a condition, as a modification. Yes, sure.
Please.
Let me explain you how this works, because this was a long conversation with the county. This table was distributed by them. However, let me tell you, if I don't get people showing up to rent for the middle category, I have to rent for the lower one. So they allow me to go down the ladder. But this is done this way because the median income is going to increase through the time, and the rents are going to increase through the time.
I understand.
So, I don't going to leave a unit vacant for a year because I don't get people from me. I'm going to rent it for the lower category right away because I needed to have it rented. Right.
I absolutely understand. to be frank, I feel that we are, it's no surprise we're in a housing shortage, so I don't feel you're going to have a problem filling these units. And frankly, it's with that exact reason in mind, which I do feel it would be appropriate to recommend that the lower category be prioritized over the moderate one, moderate two, or middle. Simply put, that would be my personal recommendation. And I'm sorry, you were explaining.
So how the process works is that when you all have a point of discussion and you'd like to make recommendations to either approve or disapprove this, or if you want to make recommendations to approve with staff conditions or modifications to staff conditions, that's what you would propose. So you would.
As a board, we have to kind of manage ourselves. When you make a motion, you're making a motion to, so you're basically ending discussion and making, so just in terms of terminology, you can say, you could even say, when we move forward, I'd like this to happen.
Appreciate it.
You say I'm making a motion, you're basically ending discussion.
Did I use those words?
No, but I was saying, you were saying, I want to recommend this and giving a direction as if that's where the board is. So if you're going to.
My apologies.
If you're going to do that, you need to make a motion
Especially
and
since there's no
do that.
video right now. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so-
My sincere apologies. So it would be my personal recommendation as one individual of this board that when we move to make a motion, that we add a condition in it, which changes the scale down so that the middle category has 9 units and the low category has 10, as I feel we should prioritize the lower income rentals in this community.
Good question. On the workforce housing, do you already have a partner for your workforce housing units? Or is this kind of speculative that you think once you get them approved that you'll be able to find a partner? You don't have a partner currently. Okay. I didn't notice in the conditions of approval specifically where the workforce housing requirement is called out. Can you?
So
or was that just assumed as part of the sustainable bonus?
it was assumed as part of the sustainable bonus that they would deed restrict the units. So
They are already restricted. Yeah.
yeah, so they have the, yeah.
You've already
Yeah.
done a deed restriction on the land itself? Yes. Okay.
For 30 years.
Good. Okay.
So that is a part of your
And that's
back.
the county's already, yes, it's all through their process. Okay. Okay. So, notes here. I'd like to talk, the height is something I understand how we got there, but I'm still just, I feel like there are some things with our land development regulations that need to be clarified. And, we've had this conversation before. I think there's certain things where, and that's one that's confusing to me because both the comprehensive plan, that table that is referenced, as well as the land development regulations specifically provide an additional bonus for properties within the transit-oriented development that have a transit use, and they provide an additional story. And the fact that the land development regulation matches the comprehensive plan, if you take that additional story into account, it leaves me kind of confused. I still think that's weird. In that table, it specifically says dash transit component, and that's referenced in the other code more clearly. Yeah, I find it hard that those two don't actually connect, but I understand if that's how we've interpreted it before. I would just say, in terms of staff and legal, I'm sure that this is going to come up before the commission. So
The policies for the second tier are in the comprehensive plan, and it's actually policy 1, 2, 3, 4. And it talks about the bonus and then how do you calculate that bonus for plan developments, and it's specific to that. And the plan development section in the LDRs reference the comprehensive plan for the density bonus calculations. So it is looped in. It is just what that train station reference is that's for that first tier bonus. So that's something that you could see and approve. And then when it kicks to the plan development, it goes and it basically maxes out the table plus the additional bonus.
So the parking is, and this is, I believe, as a planning and zoning board, we basically are responsible for identifying whether or not we believe this meets the code. We're not supposed to be judging whether or not the code is correct. In our experience of what Lake Worth should be, we're saying, does this or does this not meet the code?
Correct.
Right. Okay,
Mhm.
so on the parking side of things, there's something that's being used here that I understand, but I think it's going to be problematic for the neighborhood. And that's you've got a 25% reduction in parking for mixed use property that has two uses. And while this technically has two uses because you've got the 4 offices up front, within your calculations, you're providing 2 parking spaces for those, and then you're cutting 40 parking spaces out because you've got mixed use. And the principle behind mixed use is that your different uses are being used at different times of the day. During the day, when people are coming to the office, they're parking when people are out at work. And so when you have a mixed use, you can rationally reduce the amount of parking. If you needed 100 parking for your commercial element and 100 parking for your residential, you don't need 200 because they're not used all at the same time. On this one, just the residential component through our code comes up well above the parking that's being provided. And I understand that our code says that. So I think that it does comply with our code. But I think that's something that I think we should question, because I see what you're doing with parking. I like that they're 1-bedroom units. I think it's a great community. I think the workforce housing element, I'm in favor of all of that. But you've got a property, this is you have to understand this. You're a trendsetter here. You're building first building that's maximizing density in an area that just does not have that. I see 2-story maybe on that road. I don't think there's any 3-story currently on 10th Avenue. And you're going from 1s and 2s to a 5-story building, you're going to get a lot of attention. And I believe that when this goes before the commission, they're going to have a lot of people there. And I think it's a good thing overall. But the parking is going to be something that people are going to really discuss, especially because the lot across from you is vacant. So when you build up, you're going to have plenty of parking because everyone's going to park there. But eventually someone's going to figure out how to build on that narrow little strip of land. And when they do, they're going to take the full brunt of not having enough parking. That's my comments. I'm done.
Any more board members, comments or questions?
Just out of sheer curiosity, in terms of, again, cosmetically, just the way that the building looks, was that the only rendition of what you wanted the building to look, or were there any other? Because I'm thinking of like all the different places that we've done in like in Jersey City and in Montclair. Those are 2 completely different areas. I'm sure you know. And of course, we had to be complicit in terms of how the community looked.
Mhm.
So were there any other ideas that maybe we just haven't seen or you haven't presented?
No, we worked at different ideas. Obviously, when you go to 5 stories, you cannot do a full roof.
Mhm.
It just becomes extremely high.
Mhm.
So you got to think a little more transit, more modern, more light. And well, me sketching, sitting on the drafting board,
Yeah.
this is what it came out. We really feel like it's very light. We're not, in reality, the building has a lot of movement. You haven't looked at it into
Can we
greater
go back to,
detail,
the
but
pictures again, just so we can.
all the entrances have different movements and they have different tiers of elements coming in and out. Unfortunately, we only render one view, but when you put it on the Revit model and rotate it, the building has a lot of ins and outs, and it flows really, really well. Well, we focus mostly on modern design, which is something that we think and the developer think very strongly that it will be a great fit for the area. If this would have been a different prototype, it would have been designed very differently.
I was just thinking more glass, more window, because you had mentioned light coming in, but of course this is Florida. So.
Believe it or not, we have a lot of windows.
Yeah.
So we have big windows.
But they're more for your residents. I'm thinking more like ground level.
On the ground level, we have actually a pair of windows floor to ceiling in every single room that we are creating. We can always add another tier or another.
Like I've seen some buildings that we've designed where it was almost like wall to wall kind of windows where they would also have like indoor plants. So it's kind of like eye catching while you're passing through, just as a pedestrian, just as a person who lives in the area.
Sure.
So I was.
We can definitely increase the amount of windows in the leasing, in the office, co-work space, and also in the leasing office.
And I'm using
that's not a
also, there's that one building on Lake Avenue, that big high rise where it's just sidewalk wall. That's it. Nothing's inviting, nothing, you know, you don't feel comfortable walking there.
Yeah.
So that's what I was just wondering if maybe cosmetically.
Well, definitely we can enhance in there. We can definitely enhance. Plus, we have the plaza, which makes it very attractive too. You know, you're leasing, you're negotiating your deal. You're also looking at this beautiful plaza and the sculpture. I think it's going to be very pleasing. On the other long side, I think we should keep it a little more private. So we have to kind of restrict how much we want to expose outside, even though all the units on the ground floor have sliding glass doors and have those French balconies that you can open up your sliding glass door and get all that nice breeze, and you don't feel enclosed like in a little hotel room. It's more of a nice ambience for those ground floor units.
I was mostly just in reference to the 10th Avenue. You know, because of course everyone else needs their.
Sure. I don't see a problem adding more glass. Not a problem.
Okay.
And that will be actually very attractive.
I think so. Only because I've seen it done, and I'm just, you know.
Yeah, we can do.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Can I mention something? I would like to add something about the workforce housing here. When we purchased this property in January, but we negotiated this property last year, the entire year. We decided to do some workforce housing for the city because we know that the city has a need of affordable housing, and we decided to do it. So we went through an entire process with the county that took us 6 months to do it. And this property is 1.1 acre. So as of right, we can do 60, 65 units market rent in 3-story, very easy, with plenty of parking, you know, 102 parking spaces for 65 units is plenty of parking over there. However, we decided to go an extra mile to put affordable housing. Is why we have to go up 2 floors. So even though we are allowed to go to 7, we decided to go to 5-story building. You know, a 7-story building is too much for the area. So we thought, okay, let's put 5-story building and provide the 39 units for the residents, for the city, to improve the city. But as of right, we can just revoke these 39 units, go with 65 units market rent, do a 3-story building with plenty of parking, and we are not adding anything to the city other than a new building market rent, which I think is a loss for everybody. So is why you are seeing the project that you are seeing today. And, you know, this has been a lot of time that we have, you know, planned and designed this project. What you are seeing here is almost 2 years of work. And of course, we need another year to submit plans and to get approvals, and another 2 years to develop this property. So it's a whole big effort that we as a developer are doing for this city and to help the city, you know, provide affordable housing for the residences. So this is my speech.
And I just want to say, you know, I personally appreciate it. I really, really do. And I appreciate that you're doing 5 stories. I personally don't have a problem with 5 stories. I see that as a pattern on that side of town. So I'm not so opposed to it. I guess me personally, in terms of the pricing of the rentals, because like I said, I was part of an architecture firm. I've seen what developers do. I've seen Jersey City go from a low-end market to absolutely unaffordable unless you know the owner and have a good standing with them. And me personally, I absolutely adore Lake Worth. I came here 8 years ago, completely different market, you know, and now I was kicked out of my cottage basically because I couldn't afford the rent anymore. So it's one of the reasons why I'm personally here, is because I want to make sure that the local people, the people that live here, that want to continue to live here, can afford to live here. So I hope you don't take that as an offense, but it's more of a heartfelt kind of thing. So I would like not to see studio apartments be $2,000 a month. You know, I just don't see that personally as affordable. I know that that's where the market's heading. I work in real estate in Boca. I get it. So I hope that you keep that in mind.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'd like to file a motion to approve with conditions from the city, along with a recommendation that Exhibit B of the workforce housing submission be revised so that the middle category is reduced to 9 units and the low category increased to 10 units, which would essentially make it so that 1 unit within the building that is workforce housing would be approximately $1,000 on average cheaper per month. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I am very unclear on what the motion was. So is it, we've got potential.
So let me just go back
So,
through. What you have in front of you is 100% right. We have, the reason that we print this out for you is so that you are able to follow along and read a correct motion. So the motion is very important, the way it's worded, that it moves forward to the city commission. So you will find at the end of the staff report, you'll see the recommended motion either to recommend approval or recommend denial. And then within that motion, you can make any modifications that you need to conditions.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
That's on page 12 of the staff report.
Yes, I see here. So would you like me to read that back line per line for the record?
And then add your condition.
That was what I was.
Understood.
I just.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Your modification of the conditions that as.
Understood. So I would like to move to approve. I move to approve with conditions the request for the mixed use urban planned development, major site plan, conditional use permit, and sustainable bonus initiative program request for Lakewood Station at 930 North G Street, based upon the competent and substantial evidence provided by the staff report and in the testimony at the public hearing. In addition.
So, as you say, you make a motion to recommend approval. I'm sorry, we didn't, we screwed up. So is it just say I move to recommend approval, please.
I moved to recommend approval with conditions.
Mhm. And then as the rest of the motion as stated, and then your modifications.
In addition, with a recommendation that the applicant advise Exhibit B of their application to the workforce housing to Palm Beach County, in that the middle category would be reduced to 9 and the low category increased to 10, which would create 1 additional housing unit within the building within a lower cost between $1,000 and $1,300, essentially reducing the cost of rent in 1 unit by $1,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. The motion passes as amended.
Now, quick question. If we wanted other conditions, was that it? Was that just the one?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering in regards to the Lula thing, but that's fine.
we can talk about it afterwards. I
Okay,
can
cool.
Moving on,
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
So our motion and our passing of that motion is a recommendation to the city council. So they're going to consider our recommendation and then make a decision based on that and on their own feeling or knowledge.
absolutely. And sometimes they agree with you all and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they agree with us and sometimes they don't. So that's the way the cookie crumbles, that's why they're the electeds. They're in charge. So we don't have any planning issues other than just to say that we will need to do an organizational meeting Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Just call me if you have any questions.
Sorry, I have one quick comment. Gentlemen, before you leave, excuse me.
Oh,
I just,
No.
no, okay.
okay, sorry.
They're back.
It's quasi judicial.
Yeah, we can't.
Sorry. There's one thing I just wanted to recommend that you take a look at when you go in case it snowballs more. That access, I'm still concerned about it. I know you're looking at the street frontage there. I don't know if you have that access for convenience for your tenants, but if you can't make a left-hand turn, it's right in, right out. It's not that valuable. If it's not required for fire, you might consider expanding the green space all the way across the front of the property and just not having closing the ingress egress on it, and having just expanding your green space all the way across there. You can have a park feature across the entire park. You can even extend your site wall and have a mural there. But I just think that access to me, like Lake Worth has some weird funky stuff that we still haven't figured out, and the alleys are a big part.
They may not be able to close it completely because of fire, because fire is going to want, so it maybe
Fire's going to probably pull right up on G Street, right next to the building.
but they want a through access regardless. They want a 20 feet of clearance within the parking lot.
That's just G Street. They have to be within 50 feet of the building. They can park next to where their streets. I'm done with
But
them.
Well, they can take a look.
Just to take a look at it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So just, we're going to do a board election and organization next month. Typically that happens in February or March. But we've had some turnover, so we'll need to do that. We don't appear to have anybody from the public. So I believe the next item on the agenda is the board member comments. So if you all have any comments you'd like to make, it's a 3-minute limit.
I'd just like to welcome our new board members. I'm pleasantly surprised. We have some board members here who seem like they have a lot of good questions and are very enthusiastic, and that's great.
Thank you.
My only comment is that it's wonderful to be here. It's nice to feel like I'm contributing to a town that I get to call home after being like so many other millennials and floating from cheap lease to cheap lease, from city to city, from year to year, actually planting the flag in the ground somewhere and stepping up to help feels nice. So thank you for having me here, sincerely.
I'm also happy to be here. I would like to say one thing that I think as a board I'm interested in, if it's something that's available, is at this point, I don't know what the process is. Lake Worth, every once in a while, every 8 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years, we do a revision of our comprehensive plan. And we haven't done that in a while. I know there's been some talk of it. I don't know, does this board, we have our specific role to review and approve, review and determine whether or not an applicant is in compliance with the code.
So let me define your role. So in addition to your duties as reviewing applications and approving some applications and being a recommending body for other applications, you are one of the 2 designated local planning agencies for the city. A local planning agency under Florida statute is a body that advises the city commission on amendments to both the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations. So when a comprehensive plan amendment is proposed or a LDR amendment, or land development regulation, is proposed, you all will see those ordinances, and you will, just like you did with this ordinance, you will provide a recommendation on that to the city commission.
Okay, excellent. If there was something that came up within our discussions, either reviewing a particular project or from somebody coming in public comment where we were like, hey, yeah, that part of the code really, could we make a recommendation to the commission to adjust the code if it wasn't brought to us to review, but we just by ourselves said, hey, you know what, this parking requirement, the way it's written, I think it should be tweaked.
Yeah, and we typically do a cleanup usually about once a year. We didn't do one last year for obvious reasons because we didn't have any staff basically. But so we as staff are always identifying things as well. So if there's something that you see that you'd like us to take a look at, we can take a look at it. If it is a policy direction or change, that you all can make a recommendation to the city commission to direct staff to deal with it. But for policy direction, direction and changes, you recommend to the city commission as a board. And then they consider if they want to initiate that policy change. But if you have something small, you can even just call me or email me better. then I can
What if
remember.
I
it.
want a speed bump in front of my house?
That is not me. Thank goodness that is not it. Okay. You would call Jamie Brown for that. So
Question about parking overall. So say if I wanted to make a recommendation about residential only parking, would that be something that we would be able to suggest on planning zoning?
So you all as a board could create consensus to say that you would want something. What we typically do is even with the reductions and the other things is we require a parking space per residential unit. That's what we look for and we tell applicants for before they go to the city commission. So
Now
whether
that's for new, but what about existing?
So existing is, so we can have some offline conversations about existing and nonconformities, but basically everything is an existing nonconformity and is allowed to exist in that state until you do something to your property that would trigger requiring to come into compliance with the LDRs. So we can't go to your house if you've never had parking, off-street parking, and say, guess what? We have a new rule. You got to put parking in and you have to find the money to put the driveway in.
Right.
That's illegal for us to do. So we have requirements for residential parking. And when somebody does an addition or somebody does something that triggers the code for nonconformities, we already review for that and require off-street parking. Okay.
So that your example was for like a single home residential. What about for a building, multi-unit building?
It's the same issue.
Same.
Whether you're commercial, whether you're multifamily, whatever you have is vested. So they're existing non-conforming use and you continue to exist in that state.
So you're more or less following the Florida building code really in that. I mean, like the Florida building code tells us that if something was done and it complied with the code when it was built,
That's a whole
then it's
separate.
allowed to exist.
So it's not the Florida building code. We have our own nonconformities,
Okay.
but it's similar. It's the same kind of concept. And this has to do with, we have the attorney here. I'm sure she can get into the big, long case law thing that led to the LDRs of nonconformities and why we do what we do. But basically we do what we do because we would be sued if we didn't do what we do and we would probably lose.
So
why are y'all doing the AD thing with the website? Is that about liability too? Yes. That was a joke. That was unscripted. Anyway.
So let me know if this is better as an off, online conversation, email, verbally, etc. If I thought that recommending residential parking in a couple of streets might be beneficial to the people who are currently living there.
You cannot require a property owner to do anything if they are an existing approved project. So unless you can find money in the city budget and build a parking lot, and that would
Well,
be
no, not building a parking lot, but the residential streets, to have like in West Palm or in Delray, for example, that you have the resident only tag.
Oh, do you mean like parking permits, like residential parking
that's what
permits?
I mean.
Oh, okay.
I imagine that would be the commission.
That's a city commission item. And
Yeah.
I know that that is in their plan to discuss that particular item
Okay.
already.
Yes, that's what I'm. So they're already in discussion about that. Because
It is in their plan to discuss
to
that.
this.
I believe they've done some. I've noticed by Bryant Park, they've done.
Well, yeah, so I live near Bryant Park, so I was wondering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I live right next door to the Gulfstream. That's why I was wondering.
I haven't, honestly, we've been so involved in our own departmental issues because we've been restaffing and training.
Yeah.
Usually I monitor what's the city commission discussions a little and I haven't. So I'm sorry, I don't know where that is in the discussion, but it's definitely something you can contact the city hall about for sure.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.